Whether you're trying to fool your friends, fool your spouse, maybe just fool yourself, these high-performance versions of regular road cars are some of my favorites. This is probably my favorite segment, as I am a GTI owner, if that tells you anything. So I have been very excited to check out this GR Corolla ever since it was announced. But this one is a 2024 premium. I realize that the 2025s are just now starting to come out, so I will talk about some of the differences that are coming for 2025. And as always, I'm going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week as well. Let's go ahead and take a look. Underneath this super light hood, we have a smaller engine than what you would get in the regular Corolla hatchback. Maybe you can use that to your advantage. We normally expect a smaller engine in the high-performance version. Hey honey, let's get the one with the small engine. We don't need that big 4-cylinder. Well, instead of the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that you would get in the typical Corolla hatchback, you get a 3-cylinder that is turbocharged, and it pumps out 300 horsepower at its peak and 273 pound-feet of torque, at least for the 2024s. But for the 2025, you're going to get 295 pound-feet of torque at the peak. You can also option a sub-radiator for the 2025, so if you are taking this to the track quite a bit, a little bit of extra cooling there. But for this 2024, you don't get that option. This one is going to come standard with a 6-speed manual transmission. In fact, that is your only transmission option for the 2024s. And before 2025, you do get the option of an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission. It's supposed to be pretty good. Hopefully I can test that one out pretty soon. But here for this 2024, 6-speed only. Of course, for 2025, you can still get the 6-speed. It is still going to come standard with the 6-speed, but that 8-speed automatic is going to be an option. And with this one being a premium, it also has the front and rear Torsen limited slip differentials. Those would be part of the performance pack if you got the core, or in 2025, it's just going to be standard, which is good news if you're getting a 2025, but you're also paying $2,000 extra over the base price of this one, so, you know, it all kind of evens out. And of course, this one has the GR-FOUR all-wheel drive system as well, which is a selectable all-wheel drive system, which allows you to put 70% of your torque to the rear and 30% to the front, or you can do a 50-50 split, or you can do a 60-40 front bias as well. Fuel economy in this thing, you're looking at about 21 city, 28 highway. Not too shabby for an angry little 3-cylinder. From this side, this thing is quite compact. It is much smaller than a Civic Type R or a WRX. Those are probably going to be your primary competitors. And not quite as small as like a Mini. Even the 4-door Mini is quite a bit smaller, but still pretty compact and go-karty. Nice short wheelbase as well. 104 inches on the wheelbase, 173.5 inches of overall length. We are sitting on 18s. You're going to get these 18 for 2024. The Circuit Edition would get you the forged BBS wheels that are going to be a little bit lighter, but for 2025, now it's just the alloy wheels, but you can get like a matte black instead of a gloss black if you get that Premium Plus. But no matter what, they're going to be 18s. No matter what, they're going to be 235/40s, and no matter what, they're going to be wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4 sticky summer tires. These are a great street summer tire. And inside these wheels, we've got a 4-piston fixed caliper there that is going to be painted red. In the 2024s, it's going to be painted red for the Premium as well as the Circuit, but not in the Core. For 2025, they're all going to get red painted calipers. And then we've got a 14-inch rotor here as well. And for the back, you got a 2-piston caliper back here, a 2-piston fixed caliper and 11.7-inch rotors. We do have some venting over here, a nice big GR logo. We got the GR-FOUR down here on this nice looking side sill as well. You get a carbon roof if you get the Circuit Edition for 2024 or the Premium Plus Edition for 2025. That'll also get you the bulge in the hood with the vents as well. I do have touch to lock here, touch to unlock. So keyless access, that's going to be standard. LED turn signal in here. Got blind spot monitoring in there as well. They're not going to power fold or anything like that. And then we've got this heavy metal color. This is a premium color option. It is only on the premium trim period for 2024. For 2025, you can get it on the Premium Plus as well. But if you ever see one out in the wild with a heavy metal color, then you know at least it's not a core. So that's one little, nerd tidbit for you. Some other things you're not going to see here looking at this thing from the side, there are 349 more welds than the regular Corolla hatchback, 108 inches more of structural adhesives. This thing is right around 3,300 pounds as you're looking at it here. It'll be a little bit lighter if you get the core, a little bit heavier if you get the Premium Plus. For the 2025 Premium Plus, a little bit heavier if you get the automatic transmission as well. But right around 3,300 pounds, so not too shabby. For the front end, here's where you're going to see a lot of differences here if you're looking at the 2025. So they kind of redesigned this whole thing for 2025. But for 2024 here, this is what it's going to look like. You got these air ducts over here with the leaves in them because it's fall and there are leaves everywhere, all over the place. This area up here has been redesigned a little bit for 2024, but then it's going to be totally redesigned for 2025. Lots of real venting, lots of real cooling. This is blocked off a little bit throughout here, but lots of cooling through there, as well as up here, up there, all around. We do have LED daytime running lights. We have LED headlights. You got LED fog lights. That's all going to be standard. The parking sensors you see across the front here are not going to be in the core, but they are going to be in the Premium, and then for 2025 in the Premium Plus as well. But those are just sensors. There's no camera up front here or anything, so it's just going to give you sort of a proximity. It's not going to give you a camera feed to the inside or anything like that. A little bit of a splitter going on here as well. About 5.3 inches off the ground, so quite a bit higher than like a Civic Type R, about on par with like your Elantra and your WRX in terms of height off the ground. Haven't had any issues with scraping on my driveway or anything like that. On the backside, we've got, sort of regular Corolla hatchback vibes, but then a bunch of extra added flair going on. I really like these taillights through here. LED taillights going on, reflectors. The triple exhaust, of course, is not going to be on your standard Corolla hatchback. That is just for the GR Corolla. Diffuser down here as well. We got the parking sensors again across the back because it's the premium trim level. That's not going to be on your core. GR badge, of course. We do have a rear wiper. Always love to see that. Brake light up here. I mentioned you can get a spoiler across there. There is some extra aero underneath as well. There's some bins under there. And then you do have your backup camera under here. And then you can pop this open. I don't know if I'm just an idiot. There we go. I cannot figure out this trunk. There is a button underneath here, so I guess that button is really just for locking him, and this is more for the release. I am having so much trouble with this trunk. We do have grab handles here, so you don't have to grab the paint to close it. The privacy cover here, which you can take off nice and easily. And this is, it's small. Even for a hatchback, it's on the pretty small size, right about 18 cubic feet of space. It's a weird way to measure it, but Civic Type R is going to give you a lot more space. WRX isn't going to give you quite so much because it's a regular trunk. But you do also have the option to knock the seats down with the 60-40 split. You do have a little bit of space on the sides here as well. You got some D-hooks as well. And then underneath here, you got your access to the battery as well as your fix-a-flat kit. No spare tire. Didn't really expect a spare. Again, close that up without having to touch the paint. There is no way to open that from your key. Lightweight, kind of dinky Toyota key here. Does have the GR badge on the back though, just a lock, unlock, and panic. On the inside here, this is pretty nice for what this car is, for the price point, for everything. For a sort of driver-focused car. This one being the premium. The premium gets you the heated steering wheel, the button over here on the side. It gets you the heated seats. It gets you the wireless charger. It gets you the 8-speaker JBL sound system. The sound system isn't necessarily worth the upgrade if that's like your big sticking point. But what is worth the upgrade is the seats. So these are the heated seats as well as the bring knob suede seats, and they're bolstered really nicely. They're still manually adjustable. But they're super comfortable. If you are like really on the big side, then you're going to want to sit in these and check them out and see if you fit in them okay. But I think these are like perfect. These are very comfortable seats. They're very good for what this car does. if you get the Premium Plus for 2025, then you're going to see red stitching instead of gray stitching, but otherwise they're going to be the same seats. Still got a manual handbrake. Love to see that. Manual transmission, of course. 2025, you can't get the auto though. Your drive modes are up here. Your traction control is a button, nice and easy to get to. There's your wireless charger with your heated seat buttons. You get dual zone automatic climate with the premium pack as well instead of the single zone. It's kind of funny seeing the latest and greatest infotainment system from Toyota, but still in like this little tiny screen. This screen looks exactly the same as the Corolla hatchback screen has looked for forever. It's just like this tiny tacked on thing. They used to have little buttons over here, and it used to be pretty dated feeling, and then now it's just like still the same tiny screen, just with the latest and greatest. And actually, this is the only GR car with like good infotainment, because the Supra has like ancient BMW, an ancient BMW like iDrive 7 system. You don't even have Android Auto at all on that, and it's like really annoying to use. And then the GR86 has like a Subaru system, which isn't as good as this one. This one's super easy to use. It's quick. You can adjust your sound settings. You can adjust your display. You can adjust a bunch of vehicle settings through here. You do have nav as well. You have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Both are going to be wireless, and that has worked really well. No issues with that throughout the week. You have vents at a decent level here, so it does cool down pretty nicely. Instead of having like the super low vents, these are actually like can get air in your face here. The world's tiniest steering wheel buttons over here for your tuning and your volume. But if you have, if you have sausage fingers, then you're going to run into problems. But for me, they've been totally fine. And then you have your adaptive cruise and all that, and then adjustments for your gauge clusters, performance information in your gauge cluster. You can watch what the drive wheels are doing. You can monitor your temperatures, and then you got your standard stuff like your safety features and all that you can adjust through here, since this does have the Toyota 3.0 safety system. Down here is where you control your all-wheel drive system, whether you want it to be in front bias, rear bias, or in track mode, which is like your 50-50, a more rubberized spot. Back here, your cup holders here are pretty out of the way. I've had no issues running into the cup holders while shifting, even with a big drink here. USB-C, another USB-C up there. And you've got a 12 volt back here as well. There are no vents back here for people in the back. And if you have people in the back, they're probably going to be pretty uncomfortable. 29.9 inches of legroom back there. I fit okay behind myself. Wouldn't want to be back there for super long periods of time. I've got forward-facing seats back there, and even with those, it's still pretty tight. There's no armrest here, which I know a lot of people have complained about. Honestly, it took me a while to even realize that it was missing. I don't know. I guess I just don't set my arm there very often, but it really hasn't been an issue for me. I think you can get one aftermarket if it's a huge deal for you. And when it comes to the drive, I've been daily driving this car as well as getting some good spirited drives in, as always with these cars. And it's this kind of car like doesn't exist anymore. There are no other hatchbacks that are all-wheel drive and manual at this point. The Golf R is dropping it for 2025, is dropping the manual, and that one is still pretty heavily front biased. There is still the WRX, but not a hatchback. So it's just kind of nice having this like small chuckable hatchback with all-wheel drive, and the selectable all-wheel drive system is pretty cool here. And then you mix in the front and rear diffs, as well as these great tires. It's got nice sticky tires on it as well with the PS4S's, and the way it pulls itself through corners is really pretty incredible. Like, I remember the first time when I first got in the car at the beginning of the week, and I took a corner super hard, and the way it just like pulled through the corner, there's just so much confidence. There's, it doesn't roll too much. You don't feel like you lose any kind of grip at all, even on a super tight turn, and it just really can pull itself through really nicely. Now with this powertrain, it has this 3-cylinder, which is really sort of an interesting thing. I don't know that I've driven any other 3-cylinder that's this powerful. I don't know what other 3-cylinders out there are that are this powerful. But this is definitely a lot different than driving like a Chevy Trax or something with that 3-cylinder. Your 0 to 60 time in this thing is about 5 seconds, so it's not super fast, but it does feel like you can pull pretty well. There's no launch control or anything. The launch control is coming on the 2025 model with the automatic transmission. Your launch control in this is your left foot. But it does feel like you can move out of its way plenty fast for the street. I mean, a 5 second 0 to 60, when you look at it on paper, doesn't sound super fast, but like if you're street driving this thing, it's plenty quick. And what is a little bit interesting though is that a lot of the power comes higher up in the tach. A lot of turbocharged cars now, especially the turbocharged 4-cylinders, the GTI, the Elantra N, Civic Si, and Type R, and the WRX, your torque peaks are like closer to 2,000 RPM in the Civic Si, and it's even a little bit lower than 2,000 RPM. And so I'm used to shifting a little bit earlier. And so that's been a little bit of an adjustment here. With this car is really happier being like above 3,000 RPM. Is really where the happy place for this thing is. And then it can pull plenty fine once you're up there. It just feels like it's lugging a little bit underneath that. But then once you get up, like 28, 29, 3,000, now it really feels like it's starting to pull. It really feels like it's a lot happier up here in this rev range. And at first I thought maybe the gears were just a little bit on the long side, which is kind of odd because like my GTI has fairly long gears. And so to have even longer gears than that, it just felt a little bit strange, but what it really seems to be is that it just makes power up higher in the tach. As far as the steering goes, the steering is nice and tight and heavy, and it does feel very direct. It doesn't feel like there's much dead space or anything. That's really pretty much the only thing you can adjust in your different driving modes. There are a few different driving modes here. There's even an eco mode. That's cute, and I don't know who's using that. But it's got the normal mode and the custom mode and then the sport mode. And really, there's adjust your air conditioning, they adjust your steering, and it says it adjusts your powertrain as well. I think that's mostly like throttle responsiveness. The throttle response feels pretty good though, even in normal mode. And it's not like it's changing the transmission shift points or anything because I'm doing all the shifting in this thing. But I really haven't noticed a huge difference between the sport and the normal mode. Real thing that I don't love about this driving experience is the clutch take-up. So the bite is like all the way at the top of the pedal travel and a little bit on the ambiguous side when you're coming from a stop. And so I just feel like I keep feeling like I'm going to drop the clutch before I engage, just because it's so high up. Which, I've gotten used to it a little bit more over the course of the week. But especially like there's this big hill near my house. I was in the middle of a line of cars that I didn't want to roll back into the guy behind me. So I was like kind of riding the clutch a little bit more. And that's about the first time in I don't know how many years that I smelled burning clutch until Toyota has said that. But it's just, I wish that it's a little bit less ambiguous and a little bit lower down in the pedal travel. And for 2025, apparently they are going to be changing around the clutch system a little bit, making some tweaks to it. So you're supposed to get a little bit better feel for that one. So that'll be interesting to see. And beyond that, honestly, it's a great daily driver. It is a little bit on the stiff side, definitely. It's not as stiff as the Type R, but there's no adjustable suspension. So you can't change the suspension around for the daily drive versus the spirited drives. It's just fairly stiff all the time. It's not unbearable if you're like an enthusiast or you're used to some stiffer cars. It's not going to be a problem. It's not quite as stiff as the Type R, though the Type R, you can always swap out the Integra Type S suspension module, so that helps that one quite a bit, whereas this one, like, there's no other module to swap out. There's no adjusting it at all. But it's not like unbearable, but it is definitely on the stiff side. It is something you're going to have to get used to a little bit. As far as the brakes, no real issues with those, no real notes. The brakes work great. I haven't had no issues with stopping. I think they're just grabby enough. Gearbox also very nice and tight. Throws are pretty short and, very confident track. No real slop at all. No problems with the gearbox. It's not as tight as like a Type R and an Integra Type S or something where it takes a ton of muscle to move it. But it makes you feel like you're working for it a little bit. If you've driven an Elantra, and it's pretty on par with that. But No issues with that at all. Other than that, though, it's a really great daily driver. I mean, it's a hatchback, so it's got great visibility. It's compact. It's easy to maneuver around. It's easy to maneuver in traffic. It's plenty quick enough for highways and stuff. It has the Toyota 3.0 system, which is more than it does more things than I expected in terms of like the driver assist and safety stuff. And that stuff really has not been in my way at all. And as always with these systems, you can adjust the levels of them, but some of them, when you adjust the levels, they still are kind of in your way, beeping at you all the time. This car has not really beeped at me excessively or flashed lights at me excessively or anything like that. The blind spot is pretty subtle. It just has it in the mirror. The lane shove assist, you can turn down or turn off. I just turned that off so that's the one where like you start drifting out of your lane and it'll shove you back. You can set it to just vibrate your steering wheel if you'd rather have it do that. It has adaptive cruise, like radar cruise with lane centering as well. I didn't really expect to see that. The Elantra N had the lane centering, but not the adaptive cruise. The Civic Type R, I believe, has adaptive cruise, if I remember correctly, with the lane centering. That combination is really great if you are somebody that spends a lot of time on the highway. Seems kind of excessive. I know some people hate those systems, but it's a good system, and the lane centering works really well in the Toyota 3.0 system. And then once you get on the highway and stuff, the sound deadening, it's not awesome. It's not super quiet, but, for this level, this price point, if you're comparing it to Civic Type R, WRX, Elantra, and those other kind of cars in this same kind of like economy car that's been souped up sort of area, then it's really pretty on par with those. At the end of the day, the GR Corolla is a great formula. I love this sort of sleeper look. Maybe your coworkers just think you have a regular Corolla hatchback. Maybe you convince your spouse that you're just buying a regular Corolla hatchback. But then when you look a little closer, you can tell that it is the more performance-oriented one. It's compact. It's chuckable. It's got that cool all-wheel drive system with the selectable all-wheel drive system. It's got a great manual. It's got plenty of power. My only real issues, with it being compact, you don't have a ton of space. So if you do have people in the back seats a lot, if you have kids, you're hauling around and they're getting on the tall side, or if you have rear-facing seats, then you are going to run into some problems there. That's when maybe consider the WRX or the Civic Type R a little bit more, though the Civic Type R doesn't have an all-wheel drive system, if that's something that's especially important to you. Clutch wasn't my favorite, but it is something you get used to over time, and for 2025, they're going to be switching the clutch up a little bit, sort of tweaking that system, so maybe that would fix my issues with the clutch as well. And then you get some great amenities with this being the premium trim level. I would go for this one for the seats. It's nice to have the heated seats and the heated steering wheel or the wireless charger. But and just the seats themselves, they are supportive, they're comfortable. But either way, you get wireless Android Auto, wireless CarPlay. It's a pretty decent package. Price point is right around 40 grand, just under 40 grand for the premium. When you're looking at the 2024s, about 42 grand for the 2025s. But if you look around, it seems like a lot of money, but then you look around at the competition, the Civic Type R is a few grand more. The WRX is cheaper if you get a lower trim, but honestly, if I was looking at a WRX, I would go for the TR. I think that is the one that is really worth looking at against this one. But then again, you're a couple grand more. It would be nice if it had adjustable suspension, but not the end of the world. If you're someone that's used to riding a little bit rough, then it shouldn't be the end of the world there. Let me know what you think about the GR Corolla down in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.